Welcome in, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of Beyond the Darkness. I'm Tim Dennison for Dave Schrader. He is back in the country, folks. He is no longer a prisoner in merry old England. I wouldn't call him a prisoner, okay? But he's back from England, and he's stateside. We're getting ready for Michigan Paracon, however. We are in the Michigan state of mind right now. It's going to be an exciting weekend. If you don't have your tickets yet, there's still a few left to join us at Keewatin Casino in Upper Michigan. You can go to darknessevents.com, darknessevents.com. Click on the banner, get your tickets, join us this weekend. It's going to be an exciting weekend. Lots of paranormal celebrities out there this weekend. Anybody that you would possibly want to meet is out there this weekend. I'll be doing a talk on conspiracy theories. And so we're going to have some fun with that this weekend. Again, going to be a great time. And I don't know why you would pass that up. But if you choose to pass it up, which I don't know why you would, but if you choose to pass it up, the only other time you can see Dave and I at the same event this year is at Chicago Ghost Conference. And that's going on in October. Again, you can get your tickets at darknessevents.com. Click on the banner, follow the link, and join us in Chicago in October. That's going to be a great time as well, and we look forward to seeing you there. Also a reminder, Dave just got back from England, I know. He's returning in September, and there are just 2 or 3 spots left. That's it. 2 or 3 spots. Unfortunately, there are a few people that had to drop out. Their misfortune is your fortune. If you want to join them, you just go to darknessevents.com, you click on that link, and get in right now. That's right, you can get to England this year and experience the paranormal with Dave and Neil's story. It's going to be wonderful, but you got to do it right now. You got to get in there and do that, darknessevents.com. If you want to see what Dave saw out there, you can follow him on social media as well, darknessradio.com. Find his picture. The links to his Twitter, his Facebook, his Instagram are there, and lots of great pictures and lots of great experiences there. We'll talk to Dave next week about some of the experiences he had while he was out there. It sounds like he had a great time, and that the group that he went with had a great time, and that it was a great group all the way around. Again, darknessevents.com if you want to go in September to England. I'm jealous. I want to go to England in September, but I guess next time. I'll go next time. We have a great show today, folks. Barry Strohm is our guest, and I tell you, he's been doing some amazing work in the spiritual realm. Barry was born near Hershey, Pennsylvania, but currently resides in Park City, Utah, with Connie, his wife of 51 years. The author graduated from Lehigh University with a business management degree and obtained a civil engineer license. He's the current owner of Golden Lane Antique Gallery in New Oxford, Pennsylvania, one of the most haunted structures in the country. What started as a casual interest in paranormal photography became an obsession as the author was led along the path of learning about the afterlife and the presence of aliens among us. The gift of spirit communication allows the author to contact the spirit of deceased aliens and obtain actual information that has never before appeared in print. He is assisted in all sessions by Connie Strohm. And tonight, folks, you better buckle in, because we're going to talk a little controversial. We're talking about the words of God, and we are talking about the lost years of Jesus. I'm getting my email warmed up right now, Barry. I know.
Oh, yeah. The hair will be on fire in a little bit here.
Yeah, I know. Right away. I know I can prepare for quite a few emails. I'll give it right now, tim@darknessradio.com. You can start to flood my email at any time. I know, Barry, we've had you on Darkness Radio in the past, and on Beyond the... is this your first time on Beyond the Darkness? I think.
Yeah, it's first time for this.
Well, I appreciate you being on.
It's an honor. It's an honor. Anytime.
And I remember the last time we had you on Darkness Radio, I believe we were communicating with pets. I believe.
Yes. Right? Well, we're still doing that. We're still talking to our 2 cats, among others.
And that was a hugely popular show. A lot of people were touched by that show, and still ask to this day about your communication with pets. And I know that was a show that was close to a lot of people's hearts. Today's show is interesting in that you started up a line of communication to the other side, in which it's taken you in an interesting direction, and that is the lost years of Jesus. Now, we know that there's this period of time in which we don't know anything about Jesus. Explain to us, in your words, how this came about.
Well, it's been this long process. As you know, we do board channeling. Connie and I will get on the board, and the spirits come through, and they spell out all these words for us and get messages. And we, since we started this, we've been very blessed with the creatures or the spirits that come through. We've had saints, we've had popes, we've had disciples, we've had St. Paul. Just some of the highest spirits that people can channel with, and they've given us these messages. For years, I've had a website called messagesofheaven.com, and we've been putting some of the transcripts that we get from the saints onto that website. Recently, things have really accelerated, and we've been basically told that the other side wants me to write a book about the life of Jesus. And we've been channeling information about him, and a lot of what we're receiving is just amazing stuff. The truth is, we only know something in writing about 1/3 of the life of Jesus. 2/3 of his life, there is no writings or recordings about it. As a child, you know his birth, his early childhood. And then the next thing you know is he's being baptized by John the Baptist, and he's starting his ministries. And we know about his death, his resurrection. But there's this period of time from about roughly 10 years old until 28 where there's nothing written, nothing recorded. And it's a very, very interesting mystery. There's theories out there about what happened. There's a place in Japan that claims that Jesus lived there during that period of time. There's a place in England. They got him traveling all over the world.
Well, let me ask you this, Barry. Why is it that in your sessions, has anyone come forward and said to you, well, Barry, this is why it hasn't been documented?
Yes. We have been told exactly why it hasn't been documented. The bottom line is Jesus got married and lived a normal life for that period of time. And he always knew that his family would be in danger. He knew what the future was going to be. He knew that he would, when he started his ministries, that anybody that associated with him would be in danger. So his family life was intentionally kept a secret, and it was done so it would protect his family. And that's the basic reason why there's almost 18 years that we don't know anything about.
So as you're setting about in your, I got to ask you this question because this is curious to me. As you're setting about this journey and you're beginning these channeling sessions, which you're doing through the Ouija board, and we should preface this by saying that not everything through this board is evil, correct?
Oh, nothing is. Actually, we use a specially designed board. It's not a Ouija board. We actually let the spirit guides design the board that we use. It's an entirely different shape. They gave us our prayer protection that we use, and we've probably done over 600 hours of channeling on it now. Okay. And we've been well protected with it.
So in fairness, we'll call it a spirit board. Is that fair?
Oh, good job.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Let's go with that.
Board. So through the spirit board, you have different spirits coming forward to you and giving you information. I guess the first thing I would ask is and we'll get into who exactly comes forward to give you the information. But I guess second is, how do you verify who they are and you know that they're authentic?
Very difficult. It's very difficult. What we'll do is we'll ask specific questions. And sometimes I'll do a whole session. And then I come in very well prepared. I have a notebook with like 15 pages of questions. I have my book outlined. So I have the questions for each chapter, very well organized. And I'll have a guide and a saint come through. For instance, St. Augustine will come through. Well, I'll go through the questions with St. Augustine and record his answers. Everything we do, we have on video and audio tape. So I record the video, transcribe it, type it up. And then when I get another spirit comes through, let's say then St. Paul comes through on another night, I'll go back and ask many of the same questions. I might phrase them a little differently, but I'll ask basically the same questions, and I'll make sure that the answers compare. And if we get the answer, and sometimes I go back as many as 3-4 times because I have trouble believing what they're telling me. And if I have 3 or 4 different high-ranking spirits tell me the same thing, I'm going to accept it as being true. That it's not a coincidence.
So in that, the other thing I'm curious about, too, is that if a saint comes forward and says to you, have they ever said to you, first of all, although I'm a saint, I've been canonized by the church, I would like you to think of me as something other than the holiest of holy. Has that ever happened?
No, they all got egos.
They do. Okay. So they're much like rappers in that.
Oh no.
Okay.
They're very when you got the real deal. They're very official. They're in charge. You know right away that and we treat them with the utmost respect and honor. But you know right away that they're there for a mission, and you don't waste their time. You go right to it. You ask questions. You ask them for their messages, and you counter with questions. And it's almost like an interrogation, because I'm trying to be very specific in my questions, because I do a lot of research before I ask these questions, and I do the best I can. But if I can get the same answers from 3 different spirits, I'm good. I'm going to go with that.
So if the ego is there, Barry, is there any challenging them? Is there any saying, you know what, I get what you're saying, but can you give me anything physically on this earth that I can verify with? Can you tell me the location of something? Can you give me something that I can go to here on earth, or I can look up here on earth that will tell me that what you're telling me, or verify that you are who you are? So let's say you're talking to St. Augustine. Can you tell me something about yourself that I can look up that will verify that I actually have St. Augustine on the line?
Yes. Yeah, they will do that. They'll give you specifics. We've been channeling St. Augustine for probably 6 or 7 years. When we started, he was one of the first saints that came in for us. Gave us a lot of basic information. Some of the early transcripts, I say, are posted online. Asked him a lot of questions. I went back, researched, and every answer that he gave was dead on. I'd ask him about, tell me about something that you've written, and he'd give me the right answer. So after a period of time, you really get a good feeling for whether they're pulling your leg or not. Now, I have one saint that is upset with me trying to get the truth out about the Catholic Church. So he does come through and lie to me. And we've had the other saints have come through and told me to ignore what he says. And we've actually had him try to impersonate other saints. So, and I question and tie him down, and realize that we have an impersonator on that night, and the information I've gotten has been worthless. So I do a lot of detective work to go with this. When you read something in one of my books, I've checked it to the best of my ability and counter-checked it.
How frustrating is that for you when you realize that you've got a rogue saint in the mix that wants to screw with you?
Oh, it shocked me. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And the other saints came through to tell me what he was doing, because he was basically blocking our session for a couple nights. And I mean, our time is kind of limited. I'm trying to get this stuff done, and Connie and I were getting very frustrated by it. And then they come through and explain what's going on, and basically said, "Don't pay any attention to him." And I asked him what he said, and then he came through after I understood what was going on, and I said, "What do you want?" And he said, "I don't want you to print this." So he's very, very, very protective of the Catholic legacy and the Catholic Church. And a lot of things that took place in the Catholic Church through the years are not basically the teachings of Jesus. So that's just the way it is.
Why would it be so important for a saint who's been dead for maybe even hundreds of years to protect a legacy that they really don't have anything invested in on the other side? Because
I think that he understands that some of the facts that I bring out may affect what people know about him and some of the other saints. See, bear in mind, and I've done some research on this, there could be as many as 10,000 Catholic saints. In addition, in the first 1,000 years, it was just public acclaim that would give them sainthood. Now, today they go through this rigorous test that they do. They got to verify miracles, 2 miracles, and all that. But for the first 1,000 years, if the Pope decided this guy was going to be a saint, they sainted him. And a lot of the sainthoods took place without, you would think God would have something to do with it, but no. A lot of these were just personal political choices for sainthood, especially in the early days.
Well, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
Don't feel bad. I'm trying to wrap my head about an awful bunch of stuff right now myself.
Because that shows an extreme amount of vanity for what's supposed to be a spirit that's supposed to be of a higher vibration, a spirit that's supposed to be, the leader of a spiritual movement. And especially one that's been canonized, one that's held kind of on a pedestal. And like you said, there's ego there. And I guess if you come from a Catholic background, you would like to think that the saints are egoless, that there's, that they put humanity first.
We had one night we were channeling, and they made the statement, just because you die doesn't make you smarter. If you were a jerk in lifetime, the odds are pretty good you're going to be a jerk on the other side as well. And that's just the way it is. It's the human soul. It's just on the other side of the veil. In one instance, it's energy, and the other one, it has an incarnate body, but it's still the same energy, and it carries forward. That's why they keep reincarnating, and you got to keep coming back trying to learn. And I don't think this guy's come back. I mean, he lived in the 4th century. That was right when they were picking things and choosing.
Is it that ego that keeps him from reincarnating? That don't you know who I am? I'm Saint so-and-so, and there's no way I'm going back?
Oh, yeah. They got to, you come in clean. You can do a life plan where maybe he's going to have an exalted life. But once you're born, you're on your own. They're going to guide you, and they're going to help you try to follow your life plan. But situations change. I don't think they want to come back and take a chance.
I don't know why this is coming to mind, but there's no trade up for him. Like there's no one sitting in the background, or God doesn't come to him and say, "Hey, you know what? If you do take the chance of going back, there might be a better deal for you. Maybe you can get higher than Saint this time."
I don't know if they negotiate over there or not. I know that the guides have to approve your life plan before they let you come back. Huh. That I do know is a fact. And we all carry our books of life in our heads as energy, and that's how we can do prior life regressions. Because the guides can read that energy and tell you what took place in that prior life.
You don't have to name the saint that was playing the trickster with you, Barry, but would it be one that we'd be surprised by?
Yes. Actually, especially in Europe, he's a very, very well-known saint. A lot of buildings named after him, a lot of things.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was shocked. And he came through for us in the beginning and gave us some great information. It wasn't until they started giving me the truth, that what his actual teachings were, that he comes through and tried to block it. Keep in mind, the gospel was selected in 325 AD. Mm-hmm. I asked them how many gospels were presented to Constantine. They said around 300. 27 are selected. Among those that aren't selected are the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Jesus himself is not accepted, because in Jesus' Gospel he taught reincarnation and he spoke of an alien presence. And that was in his Gospel, and Constantine, no way we're going to put this in the book. So some of the most valuable Gospels were, first of all, they were not accepted, and within 100 years, they were outlawed. And if you followed the beliefs in some of those Gnostic Gospels, it could cost you your life. And and the Catholic Church became the custodian of the information. So I'm sure some of these early Gospels are probably still in the hands of the Vatican. Some of these early works, I'm sure, still exist, and nobody realizes it, because the Catholic Church, they demanded that all of the preachings were done in Latin, so none of the common person could ever understand what was going on. By the time you got to the Reformation, they were burning. The Catholic Church was torturing and burning heretics that were trying to break away from the strict way of the Catholic Church. It was really hard to reform some of the stuff that was in there. And a lot of the books were lost when Constantine selects them. He picks books that are going to make him politically powerful, because he feared that the Christians would gain enough strength that they would actually overthrow him. So he manipulated all the books that were chosen. And once they're chosen, the monks retranslate, and the stories grow more grand and more grand. Some of the truth of what they've told us. For instance, they tell us that the crucifixion, that there were not three people crucified, that Jesus was crucified by himself, and the story of the criminals that were crucified with him was a fabrication that was added to the story later. A lot of the things that they tell us really exemplifies the fact that Jesus was a man. He was also God incarnate, but he lived this human life. He came back to experience the human experience. When he traveled, I asked him what the greatest thing was that affected him that he saw in his travels as a teenager. And what he said was the human suffering. He was very, very impressed by the fact of how all the poor people and the common people would suffer in their everyday lives. He came back to experience a human experience. And he was God, and he was reincarnated, and he was crucified. But in between, there is a ton of things that have been really exaggerated about his life. And these are the things that a lot of people don't want us to discuss.
It seems odd for me when we talk about how things got more and more exaggerated as Constantine is building what we now know as the Bible, that you take, for example, the Gospel of Jesus that mentions aliens, and he goes, why not throw that in? Because if we are getting a little outrageous, what was it about? Has that information come up? What is it about that gospel that Constantine went, no, that one's a little much?
Well, even Jesus did not talk about an alien presence and reincarnation to the masses. He taught it to his disciples because he felt that the common person would have trouble accepting that and understanding it. Just like I find the Bible one of the most difficult books that I've ever tried to read and understand because it's all in parables. Well, Jesus never taught in parables because he talked to the common person. Ask yourself whether the average person that was in Christ's ministry was educated enough to sort through the parables that wound up in the Bible. The answer is no. He taught in a very plain language to the common person. He got more complicated in his teachings to his disciples, but basically, when he taught, it was to the common person. And then through the years, these stories became more and more complicated. But I mean, everything was. In the beginning, there were really no written records of what he did at the time. There were stories told to the coming generations. I mean, I think the first recorded writings is like 2 generations after he was crucified. And those writings are based on stories and what storytellers exaggerated what they heard.
I'm going to ask kind of a stupid question, but at the same time, a very curious question. Has it ever come up in your sessions why these disciples who were sitting around Jesus, none of them picked up a quill and went, you know what, we got to write this down?
Most of them couldn't write.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They weren't educated. They most of them didn't have the ability to write. John could write. Peter could write. And actually, most of the writings in Luke and Mark are the words of Matthew and the writings of Peter. Peter actually contributed to many of the existing Gospels.
Why the different name them, or why attributed to a different disciple?
Because of vanity. Stories changed. I'll take credit for this one. By the time they started writing, by 60, 70 A.D., the disciples were all gone. Some of the apostles were left. Paul was there. I think by 60 A.D., he would have been martyred as well. But all of the participants within 2 generations were essentially gone. And John outlived them all, and he was put into. They sent him to a remote island, and he wound up trying to write Revelations there. But it's all stories. John, and even when I don't even think John could write, I think he.
So with that being said, I guess my question would be. You've got disciples who are not disciples who are writing chapters that may or may not be accurate about the life of Jesus, and then you've got Constantine who's picking these chapters that may be completely not exactly what they are of Jesus, and then you've got the Gnostic Bible. What exactly is an accurate story of Jesus? Do we even have one out there that we know of, according to what you found out in these different sessions?
No. I don't think there's actually one accurate story that's out there, because what they're telling me is actually a very, very simplified version of the life of Jesus. For instance, they tell at the time of the crucifixion. None of the disciples were present at the crucifixion. They were all in hiding because they thought that they would be killed if they came to it. And what they're telling us is that only Mary and Ruth were the only witnesses to the crucifixion. So Mary and Ruth come back and tell the disciples when they catch up with them what took place, and then the disciples spread the story. And I mean, they tell us, in the Bible it says that the earth darkened, there were earthquakes, the dead were raised from the grave. And I said, did any of that take place? And they said, no, it didn't. Many of the stories of those exaggerated details of the crucifixion did not take place. It was, he was flogged. He couldn't carry the cross. Somebody carried the cross for him. he was put on, and he dies on the cross. And like some of the statements that he's credited with saying, like, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. And I can never understand that, because he was God incarnate. So why would he say, forgive me, Father? Because, he was. Mm-hmm. Apparently, a lot of those things were never said either. The story, and then I've started writing a chapter on the crucifixion. And it's actually a very simple event, like it would take place for any ordinary person. But they did find out the stone was rolled away from the tomb. And in the Bible, it says the 3 people came forward from the tomb. I asked if that was true, and he said no, it wasn't. We all hear that when he passes, his soul passes into hell for 3 days, and then he's resurrected. So, I asked him the question, I said, did you go into hell for 3 days? And the answer was no. I said, well, what'd you do? He said, well, I just basically rested, which kind of makes sense for a soul once you go through all that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why did you show yourself to Thomas? And he said, because he doubted me. So the doubted Thomas story is actual. And a lot of the details after the resurrection are pretty accurate. But the tendency is the monks and the writers of these Gospels just exaggerated. And they did things in their writings that they assumed a God would do, and that this would happen. And I mean, they're really laying this out to us, and we hear the same story from multiple saints. And we have actually had the appearance of Jesus in several of the sessions, and he's answered questions as well. And it's a phenomenal mission we're on. It's utterly amazing. And I often question why we've been selected to do this, and I don't have a real good answer for it.
Well, Barry, let's take our break right there, and when we come back, let's talk about some of the people who have come forward on the Spirit Board that you've been channeling, and let's talk a little bit about Jesus as well, and what he's had to say in the times that you've brought him forward. We'll do that here in just a moment, but first,
beyond the darkness.
welcome back to Beyond the Darkness. I'm Tim Dennison for Dave Schrader, who is back next week. Our guest is Barry Strohm, and we're talking about the words of God. Barry is doing some phenomenal work right now, and we're talking all about it. It's if you haven't been listening to the first part of the program, shame on you. Barry is, through his Spirit Board, channeling different saints, popes, even Jesus himself, and getting the story of the lost years of Jesus. And let's talk a little bit, Barry. We teased before the break that we were going to talk about who exactly you were talking to. We know that we've mentioned St. Augustine. I find this part interesting. I want to get to this particular person right away. Pope Sylvester.
Yes.
Pope Sylvester is one of those ones we talked in the first part of the program of if you're a saint and that they have ego, first of all, and a lot of ego, and they don't seem to want to go through the reincarnation process. Pope Sylvester was a little different, wasn't he?
He was far different. Yeah. Pope Sylvester was the Pope in 325 AD when Constantine selected the gospel.
Now, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say he was the Pope, and he actually participated in it. So he told us a lot of what took place and how the books were chosen. Said he disagreed with a lot of the choices, but Constantine was in charge, and nobody had the nerve to vote against him. So he was pretty much the New Testament is pretty much as he designed it, and it changed through the years, but it's basically his concept.
Now, in our world, there are two Pope Sylvesters. There's the first and the second. But in the other side, were there two Pope Sylvesters?
No, just one soul. Pope Sylvester actually reincarnated and became Pope again in the year 1000 and chose the name Pope Sylvester II. So he came back, he reincarnated. Around 1000 AD, the Catholic Church had a lot of problems. And he came back, tried to became Pope, tried to fix a bunch of the problems, and for his reward, they fed him a poison fig, and he died after being Pope for a year. But his soul came back and actually did reincarnate and was Pope 2 times.
Is that in the life plan? Has he explained to you that, you know what, I was taken out, it was before my time, I'm coming back, I already know what I want to do, and I'm coming back with a vengeance?
No, I think they interrupted his life plan. So, circumstances can change. You don't have total control over what takes place. He came in as a reformer and made a lot of enemies, and you got to be careful about those figs when you eat them.
That's true. I even look out for fig Newtons. They don't really agree with me. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about St. Paul the Apostle.
Yes.
I find it interesting that you're getting messages from all these different people down the line, but what does St. Paul the Apostle bring to the table when he first addresses you?
St. Paul is apparently very close to God on the other side. God apparently, it's like this pecking order over there, and they have a chain of command, and it looks to me like God has assigned St. Augustine, St. Paul, and St. Peter to give us the information for this book because he trusts them. When St. Paul comes in, you can tell that this is not the average spirit coming in. He's in control, doesn't have a great sense of humor, and he's very businesslike. And the information that he's given us has been just totally accurate. He'll come in, and then I'll ask him a bunch of questions in different subjects, and I always ask him first, like, can I ask you questions about the married life of Jesus? And he'll give me permission to do it. And we treat them with the utmost respect that they deserve. And one night we had St. Paul in, and I said, "Why have you honored us by coming through to give us this information?" And his answer was, "God told me to." So I guess he's following orders too. They want the truth to come out. It's a very, very simplified version of a human that was God.
I'm curious. There's part of me that just, I wrap my head around it, and part of me just says, why do they feel the need to get the story out? What is it that they feel needs to be told, or why does it need to be told, and why now?
I think that we're at a point now that technology allows the story to be told. Because I asked him, why me? And he said, and the answer was because of my books and radio interviews and things that I do. They referred to it as having reach, that I can reach people basically throughout the world in a very simple manner. And I really, basically the technology wasn't there before this time. For the last 20 years, with the internet and everything, it would have been very, very difficult for anybody to spread the message and to get it out there. Right now, we've started this group on Facebook. It's Words of God Then and Now, and anybody can join it. But we've picked up almost 600 members in the first 2 weeks we've got this thing. So we now have the technology and the ability to go out and reach people and bring the message to them. Whether they believe the message is totally up to their free will. But they want the information presented, and they want the truth out there, because the saints have the feeling people are drawing away from God right now. There's a lot going on, a lot of secularism, and a lot of people just simply don't have time for religion or faith. I personally don't have a lot of time for religion, but I got a ton of time for faith. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the trend that they want us to follow. They want people to get along. This is, if man is going to evolve and truly learn to travel the stars, they have to learn to get together. They have to get along with each other. They've got to share. They got to share the love, so to speak. Things are, with all the negativity out there and people tearing down monuments and just so much things going on, they want a simplified message given to the masses that will allow them to believe and follow God's simple teachings. His teachings are quite simple. The Bible complicates it. I have a hard time reading the Bible and understanding it. And even theologians take such different opinions of different things. But when you listen to these saints and they tell you the stories, it's really quite simple. And I think this simple story is what they want told. And I'm putting it out there. We'll talk about it on the radio. And I'm writing this book. Probably be out. I'm guessing it's going to take me a year to write it, because they're giving me all this information and we have to record it all. Mm-hmm. But, in like a year and a half, I'm going to have this book out there. And there's going to be a lot going on. For instance, we've been told that alien disclosure will be within 3 years. So I have this feeling that there's a bunch of things coming down. I asked one of the saints the other night, I said, what will be the meaning of alien disclosure when everybody finds out there really are aliens out there? And the answer to that was, everyone will realize the full power of God, because he is our God he is God of the galaxy. The aliens that I channel worship the same God we do. So I think there's a lot of change coming soon. And I think what we're doing and the messages we're getting just ties into this whole big package.
There's a question that hits me here, Barry, and it's something that dawned on me when I was young, and I don't know that I even dare state it, but I guess I'm going to throw it out there. What is the impression of some of these saints that you talk to, maybe even the Pope, when it comes to organized religion in the church? Do they feel like it's gone off from the original? Well, let me rephrase. Do you feel like we're not living the way Jesus taught us to live? In other words, do we spend too much time in a building structurally trying to live the way that we're not living outside of that building? If you know what I'm trying to say. Are we not?
I know.
Are we not walking the walk? Are we just talking the talk and not walking the walk?
Yes. Organized religions give people a way. It's a scapegoat for people. You go to church on Sunday and you forget about it for the rest of the week. I asked when one of the sessions when we actually had Jesus in, I said, "What do you think of the Catholic Church?" His answer was, "I love the Catholic people." He totally ducked it like that. So they are trying to simplify religion. Every individual has the ability to practice faith and their own personal religion and practice what we're being told is a true belief. It's very simple. They keep telling us we have to speak of God's love for everyone. We've gone very deeply into details in a bunch of things. I have a whole chapter on evil. I asked him one night why the Holocaust was allowed to take place. And the answer was, that they wanted man to see ultimate evil so that it never happened again. So they're out there looking at this big picture, and they're trying to guide man that he can successfully evolve. And through this high technology and everything, many individuals are pulled away from a belief in a spirit or a heavenly being. They think technology can cover it. I mean, I had a civil engineering license, a business degree, and a bunch of other stuff. And that tended to take me away from understanding. I never even believed in ghosts till I was 60 years old. So everything had to kind of be proven to me, and I kind of got away from it. But once I really got involved in this, they've proven it to me. I mean, I feel I have ultimate confidence in what they're giving me. I test it. I'd be as scientific with it as I can. I write it all down, digest it, and now I'm passing it on.
Boy, you go down a rabbit hole when you talk about evil and the Holocaust and trying to show the ultimate evil so that it will never be repeated again. Because at that point, I might have gone on about an hour diatribe with whoever's on the other side of that board, and I would have said, I can encapsulate it in about 20 seconds, that it seems like there are some that haven't learned the lesson. And in response to that, what would their response be when you say, you know what, there's probably a minority out there that haven't learned the lesson? And how do you address that?
I'll give you an example. Mm-hmm. My alien buddy, now he comes from a highly advanced culture. They live on the far side of the Milky Way on their planet. Very advanced. I mean, they can come here in 10 hours, for Lord's sake, from the far ends of the Milky Way. And I asked him, I said, do you worship the same God we do? Yes. They have the same souls we do, and they can come to the same heaven we do. That's how I could channel with him. And I said, on your planet that's so advanced, does everybody believe in God? And his answer was, no. Even as advanced we are, there are those that refuse to believe. So it's non-belief is like this universal cancer that's out there. People, they have, everyone has free will. Every soul has it, and they can use it not to believe. I can expand on that a little bit.
Sure.
One time I asked what happens to a non-believer? And what they said was that the soul actually has to live the life of a non-believer so that they can understand the emotions that are involved. A spirit looks at things differently than we do. They look at death as the beginning of a cycle. Humans look at it as the end of the cycle. To a spirit, when you cross over, your soul is just simply starting another phase of reincarnation. You can stay over there if you want. You can come back if you want. But the cycle begins new from death. To us, death is the end.
Why is it, or have you found out through even talking to these saints or even popes, why is it that they decided that death was the end? Why did they not buy into the theory of reincarnation?
Because of power. The churches needed to control the people. So you could control them better by telling them you're either going to heaven or to hell. And if you want to go to heaven, you got to come to church and you got to put the money in the box. And they did not want the person being able to say, well, I'll take another shot at it next life. So it's most of what we're seeing in the organized religion is power. The churches need to exert power over the people so that they can exist and grow financially.
You hear from a lot of psychics, well, there's definitely an afterlife and there's a heaven, but there is no hell. In the Catholic Church, there's definitely a hell, there's definitely demons, and there's definitely Satan. Do you hear from these saints and from these popes, you know what, we were right, they're wrong? Or do you hear from them that, you know what, there is no hell? We kind of made that up.
There is no hell. They made it up. There is a lower realm. On the other side, there are 7 realms. And there is a lower realm where where people that really do bad. For instance, the Pharisees were responsible for the death of Jesus. Pilate actually tried to save his life, and that is true in the Bible. So I asked them the other night, I said, what happened to the souls of the Pharisees that were responsible for killing Jesus? And they said they were sent to the lower level. And I said, did they get out yet? And the answer was no. So there is a place of nothingness where they send the souls to contemplate what they've done. And these guys apparently have been there over 2,000 years now. So it's they say there's no time on the other side. So I don't know how all that ties together. But there is no hell. Satan is an energy, a negative energy. But there's no God, there's no devil. He ain't running around with a pitchfork and a red suit. That's all been made up in order to convince people that if you do not listen to what the church preaches, you will go to hell. You will not. Everyone's going to go to heaven. You may not like where you go in heaven, because if your soul messes up in a lifetime, I mean, you may have led 1,000 good lives, and you've climbed up that into the realm, and you're next to the top. And you can in a lifetime, you can screw all that up and go back to number 2 and have to do it all over again. So, I mean, there are penalties over there, but there's no hell.
Man, so when you just to kind of wrap this section up, when you're in that lower realm, is there escape from it? Can you reincarnate and work your way out of there? Is there a work release program from hell there, Barry?
And there is, and they call it karma. So you're going to come back and you're going to pay the price. Okay. All right. So no, there's a work release program. You know, when your guides think that you're ready to go back and try to do the penance for it, you have to make up to the souls that you injured. So, I mean, think like Hitler, for instance.
I was just going to ask about him. Yeah.
He's got to have to make up to all the souls that he did harm to. So he's got a long, long path to come back.
How do you make up for that, though? If let's say every number is true and you're responsible for 6 million lives, how do you make up for that? That's a huge number.
Well, maybe you have to live 6 million lifetimes and make it up to that individual soul.
Wow.
Yeah, no, there's penalties. You're going to be a little careful.
Wow. Okay. So I've got to know. I've got to ask this question, and then we're gonna move on from this one as well. You're talking about St. Paul the Apostle. He comes through. He's all business, no sense of humor. Who on the other side that you've talked to or communicated through the Spirit Board is the biggest cut up? Who's the person with the biggest sense of humor and maybe isn't serious all the time?
No, my alien Moo. He had a great sense of humor.
Yeah,
he'd actually play jokes. I mean, Moo and I. He's part of his soul is actually part of our soul family. And he is lifed with me, and he's lifed with Connie in other lifetimes. And he says that both Connie and I have lived on his planet in prior lives. Now, if you think that's hard to understand, think about this. Your soul energy has been around since the inception of whatever. Humans have only been on Earth for 200,000 years. So where do you think your soul energy was before there were humans here? Well, the answer is you were on other planets with the intelligent life. Moose told us that aliens have visited Earth since the time of the dinosaurs. So the reincarnation is intergalactic, believe it or not.
I got to ask this, Barry. If humans have been on Earth for 200,000 years, where did they come up with the math for the Bible? Did that ever come through in any of these sessions as to how long we've been around and what they chalk it up to?
Story. They made it up.
Just the story. They took a shot in the dark, and this is how long we think we've been around for?
Yeah. No, they've told us there's no Adam and Eve. God did create man, but he did not do it 2,000 years ago with Adam and Eve. He did it. He probably did it through the interaction of aliens with seedings here on Earth. Because the book I have at the publisher right now is a detailed book about aliens, but it crosses over to the universal God and universal reincarnation. So that all kind of ties into my new book. But the aliens tell us that there were actually 3 attempts at seeding humans on Earth. There was an attempt made when there was nothing but water here. And that is why you see the mammals, the dolphins and the whales. That's why they're mammals. That was an attempt at seeding, but they couldn't advance to get it up into dry land and to do what they wanted it to do. The whole idea of the human race is we're supposed to evolve to the point where we can travel the stars, because there's going to be a time that Earth is going to die. The sun's going to burn out. It's a natural process of things. Just so man has got to learn to travel the stars if they're going to exist into the long-term future.
Did they give you an idea of when that is? When
No.
we're supposed to?
It's a long time. I asked him when we'll be able to travel the stars, and Moose said it'll be about 200 years.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you're doing these sessions. I got to get to this point because I think I have a million questions here, and I don't know that we have time for every single one of them. You're in your sessions, and you've brought forth saints, you've brought forth popes, and you come across the man himself.
Mm-hmm.
You channel Jesus.
Yes.
How is it for the first time that it's him, and what is it about him that you know it's him? Is it a different energy signature? What is it you feel? What is it that he says? What is it that makes you realize that we've got the man himself on the line?
It's the messages that he gives. All of a sudden, you feel this energy come over. The energy changes. And all of a sudden, you have these wonderful messages that he starts to give. And it's when he comes on, the saints give us great messages. But when he comes on, it is just like you feel, you get this great feeling, and all of a sudden you are hearing these high messages like, he's talking of love, and he's talking of what people have to do and love each other, and how do you clear your heart to love God? These are when he comes in, everything is elevated, and you just simply know. We have these 2 cats that reincarnated for us, mm-hmm. and he was on the board one time, and it's like the cats know. And they were sitting on the table, and Leo, our male cat, knocks a chair over, and Connie goes, Would you prefer that we lock the cats up? And the message was, no, they are also my children. It's just, but that is the messages are wonderful. I'm going to be starting to post some of them on the on the group site, on the Words of God group. And I'm going to take some videos of where we channeled with him. And I'm actually going to post some of the videos on YouTube where we channeled Jesus, and you can decide for yourself.
Let me ask you this, Barry, because we get the impression, especially through organized religion, that the man was not only very what's the term I want to use? Not only very esoteric, but he was very, I guess, serious about his teachings, and everything was very deep. But do you ever get the in one vein you get, like the cats know they're my children too. And in the next you get, hey, by the way, Barry, if you ever want to get a blood stain out of the carpet, you're going to want to use a combination of dishwashing liquid and club soda. Just a tip from me to you. But okay, now back to this. Is there ever mundane advice from Jesus, or is there ever anything that comes down the pipeline of, or even a joke from him? Like, hey, you know what? Let's lighten the mood. Here's a little something.
No, he's been in our appearances. He's been very serious.
Really?
Yeah. It's. I'm going to post that video and people will see, but you can tell right away. Like in the first time he came in, I think we were doing a work session with St. Paul, and all of a sudden I asked this question about a disciple, and all of a sudden the message comes in about the love of God. And I knew everything changed, and I said, who is this? Who just gave me that message? And he spells out Jesus. But I just knew right away. Now, we had a session one night where we also channeled with the Blessed Mother. Now, her energy was phenomenal. When she came in, I was working with another medium on the board, and she and I just both had tears coming down our face just from the energy. And she came in for one of our guests, but had some serious problems to tell that she wanted the guest to know that she was hearing her prayers. And it was a very short message with her, and she left. But the energy was phenomenal when she was there.
And this is going to seem like an odd question too, how does Jesus describe himself? When we hear through the church what he was, we hear that he's the Son of God, or like we described earlier in the program. When he describes himself, when you ask, what exactly were you or are you, what does he say?
I asked him, I said, were you God? When you were on earth, were you God? And the answer was yes. And I followed it up. I said, when you were on earth, was there a God in heaven? No. That was his answer.
So there wasn't.
He was the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It's all three. He was God. He was God incarnate. Jesus was God incarnate.
So he knew that. Was he still aware of all things that were going on in the universe at that point, even in human form?
I don't know. I didn't pursue that point. Whenever I'm ready for every time he's come in, I wasn't prepared. All of a sudden you go, oh my goodness, what do I do now? And
when the Lord makes a cameo appearance, it's not exactly like you have notes prepared or anything like that.
No. He caught me completely. Now I have notes prepared for the next time he shows up. So he's not going to catch me off guard again. No, every time he does, and I keep saying, well, why didn't you ask him that? Why didn't you ask him this? And I'm going, because you're stupid, idiot. You're locked up.
Well, there's just some things I think that you just don't ever, they don't cross your mind until, it's like when you meet a famous person you've looked up to your entire life, and you ask the basic stuff because it's the first thing in a moment of either awe-inspiring panic or whatever it is you're going through, that you go, I need to know this, I need to know this. And then you sit back 2 or 3 hours later after the adrenaline rush is worn off, and you go, hey, I had this really interesting question I should have asked him.
Yeah, we'll try it with Jesus sometime if you want to.
Yeah.
The first time it's like, you want to feel that in the pit of your stomach. It's spectacular. It's awe-inspiring. And you keep saying, why is this happening to me? How, this can't be. This can't be happening here in this little town of Pennsylvania, but it's happening, and it's happened multiple times now.
So let me ask you this. After a few times of him coming forward, does that feeling go away? Do you go, it's Jesus again. Let's sit down and talk to him. Is there ever a point where the excitement and adrenaline level comes down a bit? You become a little bit more clear-headed, kind of like an NFL quarterback who's had a few games under his belt?
Yeah, taking a couple hits. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's still incredibly exciting, but I've learned how to respond to it now. And he is coming through for a reason. He gives me messages, and he wants me to ask him questions so that I can better get his message out. So now I've taken the time to write up 2 pages of questions, and next time he comes through, I will go to those 2 pages and I will ask questions.
This is going to seem like the most superficial question you're going to get all day, Barry. Bear with me because I have the sense of humor of a 3rd grader.
Okay.
What does he think of people when when they get in a situation, they drop a hammer or something happens to him and they take his name in vain? I mean, does that matter to him?
They tell me he doesn't get the saints tell me he does not get angry.
Okay.
That he understands that humans have an incredible amount of failings. For instance, I said, why don't you just wipe out evil? Mm-hmm. Get rid of it. And he said, because then there would be no humans. He said, we all have evil in our hearts. And the goal is to get rid of it and replace that with the love of God. But at this time, there'd be no humans if you got rid of it. It makes a lot of sense.
So nothing there about there has to be a balance? There's no universal law that there has to be a balance? No. I mean, everyone is kind of on their own. Your soul has to advance. You have to do these things. I asked him, I said, well, Connie and I are going through some amazing things right now. I mean, stuff that neither of us ever in our wildest imagination comprehended could take place. We've always lived fairly normal lives, and this is not normal of what we're doing. And so I said to him, when we're on the other side, what does my soul do when I'm on the other side? And the answer came back. They said that when Connie and I are on the other side, we're guides. And that we're actually supposedly very high-ranking guides on the other side. And that we've been sent back, and this was in our life plan, and right now we are smack on our karma path, that we're doing exactly what we were sent back to do. Wow. Let me ask this, because I'm interested in his impressions too on just different things on life. Has he given his impressions about our world right now? Is there a sense of disappointment? Because it seems like as we go through time in the ages, that we get darker as a society. Like maybe he's losing this war as far as love and God, and it doesn't seem like he's getting a firmer foothold in the world and society. It seems like things are slipping away a little bit. Is there a sense of frustration there?
Yes. He says people are drawing away from God. And that is what this whole program is about. We're being given messages, and we're hopefully going to make this small dent with some group of people, who knows how large a group. They can make the choice to believe what we hear, or they can make the choice not to. But at least they'll be given the information that they can make the choice. Right now, people are not receiving the truthful information.
What?
Ministers are preaching what they believe to be the facts. We have channeled with ministers and people of God, and every one of them has told us, first, heaven is better than they ever expected, and second, it is nothing like what they preached. I mean, you got to get on the other side to understand that it's not correct.
What is his opinion of polarization of religion, of religious wars, of the fact that people get into fights over belief in what they believe?
He doesn't like it. It's there's one truth, and there's 1,200 religions. Think about that. Of the 1,200, there's over 1,200 organized religions, and none of them have the truth. All they know is what they're told. Different religions, I don't want to get into specific religions, but there's a lot that he totally disagrees with. And he doesn't object to people not going to church. Churches do good. They do charity work and things. But you can do charity work and have the true belief in spirit. Actually the whole thing. The more I learn, the simpler it gets. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
it's his messages are incredibly simple. I even understand them, so it's got to be simple. It's good stuff.
That it is. I tell you what, Barry, as you're learning more, my friend, let's bring you back to the program. But the website is messagesofheaven.com if you want to check out what it is that Barry and Connie are doing. And then you said you were going to post the video where?
I'm going to put it up on YouTube.
Okay. And where can they find your YouTube page?
The best way to follow that, well, I also have that website, spiritspredict.com, and we put a lot of stuff up there.
Okay.
I'm finding that I'm doing more and more on Facebook. So they can send me a friend request on Facebook. They can join our group. Send me, just come in and join. We'll put you in. You better be open-minded because we have a pretty high turnover. People think they're open-minded until they start seeing things that they realize they aren't as open-minded as they thought they were. But we are bringing you the messages as they're given to us. I am simply a messenger. I keep saying, don't shoot the messenger. We're being given this stuff. We've been selected to do it, and we're going to pursue it. I would think right now Facebook would probably be the easiest way to come in. They come in through Spirits Predict. They can get on my newsletter. I have a free newsletter that I sign out. So there's a lot of ways to get in touch, and that's the whole idea.
Okay.
We want them to have access to what we're being told.
All right. Barry, thank you very much for joining us tonight on Beyond the Darkness, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
I can't wait. Just tell me when. All
right, we'll do. Barry Strohm, everybody, again, check him out. Check him out at those different places. Facebook, like he said, in his Facebook page, and again, also messagesofheaven.com is a website that he's just put up as well. Before we go tonight, folks, it is my sister Colleen's birthday today, so I do want to wish her a happy birthday and let her know I love her, and that and may she have many more to come. And kind of a special day for her today as well. So happy birthday, Colleen, and many, many more. By the way, it's my birthday during Michigan Paracon, so if you're there and you want to buy me a drink, I'm not opposed. I'm just dropping that as well. Tomorrow we have a good show coming up for you as well. It's been a great week. We have had a great week this week on Beyond the Darkness, and tomorrow, very interesting stuff, I tell you. We're going to be talking about the Nazi regime and the supernatural with Eric Kurlander. It's called Hitler's Monsters, a supernatural history of the Third Reich. And we'll be talking about how the Third Reich dipped into the supernatural to try to obtain power. We'll be doing that with Eric tomorrow here on Beyond the Darkness. For Dave Schrader, I'm Tim Dennis. Have a great hump day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.